In the 90s, DC truly ruled the world of animation. Beginning in 1992 with Batman the Animated Series,
I did not want you to find out this way, but I suppose what is done is done.
Detective.
the DC animated universe expanded with Superman and then Batman Beyond. Warner Brothers even released 2 animated Batman films, Mask of the Phantasm and Sub-Zero. At the time, DC was hoping to expand their comic catalog as well. This led to DC acquiring Wildstorm's properties, a standalone superhero universe created by Jim Lee, later implementing them into the DC universe. Gen 13 is arguably Wildstorm's biggest property, behind the Wildcats and the Authority, which is of course now being developed as a film under James Gunn's DCU, with characters first appearing in Superman, such as the Engineer. Gen 13 follows Caitlin Fairchild, Grunge, and Freefall, teenagers forced into government experiments under the guise of an elite school without their knowledge. Once their powers manifest, they realize they are caught in a huge government conspiracy, being forced to go on the run. Due to the comic's success, Disney grew a huge interest in developing the comic as an animated feature film. Jim Lee would sell the film rights to Disney, with the tie-in video game set to be developed by
EA Games.
Challenge everything!
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Hot off the critical success of Batman the Mask of Phantasm, storyboard and action sequence director Kevin Altieri was keen on expanding the market of animated superhero films, viewing the straight-to-DVD format as the future for this medium. With the goal of growing Wildstorm Media, Jim Lee licensed the Wildcats to Canadian animation company Nelvana, who are perhaps best known for the iconic Star Wars Holiday Special animated segment, which Boba Fett debuted in.
What happened?
What the hell is even that?
Sadly, the Wildcats series failed, lasting a single season and being heavily criticized by fans of the comics. Having zero creative input from Lee, it was no surprise it wasn't the big success many thought it would be. Having learned of Altieri's mission, Jim Lee jumped on board as soon as he heard. Having grown tired of being constrained by studio executives, Lee negotiated terms with Altieri to ensure a faithful adaptation of the characters. Altieri got many members of the Batman animated crew to work on the film. While not a direct adaptation, the film took some creative liberties. The most apparent was reducing Rainmaker's role into a glorified cameo, despite her being one of the central members of the Gen 13 comic, as well as changing the family relationships between certain characters, with Rainmaker's connection to Threshold now being given to Caitlin Fairchild. While I'm familiar with the Wildcats, Deathblow, and the Authority, Gen 13 was always something I knew by name, but never really knew that well. All these years later, I finally decided screw it, and watched it. And my god, what an experience it was. Since the crew was mostly taken from DCAU shows, the art style of the film is very similar to that of Bruce Timm's character designs, which initially led me to believe the project was connected to that universe in some way. The movie begins with an ominous transmission, mentioning that a Gen 12 test subject has gone rogue and to be captured. As the transmission concludes, "Dead or Alive" written at the bottom repeatedly flashes.
I understood that reference.
Stephen Callahan, a former operative, goes on the run, seen with his ex-wife Rachel, son, and infant daughter. The car crashes, bursting into flames while attempting to flee from military choppers. Suddenly, Rachel is brutally gunned down, blood and all. But hey, you know what they say, every Disney movie begins with a murder.
And every good family film starts with a vicious murder.
Tell him to bring out the whole ocean.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Stephen is then killed as he sacrifices himself to save his kids. The son is sadly apprehended and seemingly loses his sister. But just wow, what a way to open a movie. It builds intrigue while also establishing the tone of the film. The film then has a time jump and we now follow college student Caitlin Fairchild. When walking to class, she's invited to a government-run academy by a military man who claims to know her father. Also, my god, this might be the horniest movie I've ever seen.
What are you doing here anyway? I sleep here, remember? Let me in! Let me in! I swear to God, Fairchild, you're the biggest pink.
Hey, yo!
Oh, Kyle, you are such a total madman. I'll be there in a second. I'll be right with you, baby.
I'm gonna come.
Do not come.
Oh, and Caitlin, give me 15 minutes. Okay with you? Hey, Caitlin, you wouldn't happen to have a spare condom, would you?
No.
Caitlin eventually takes up the offer and enrolls in the new government-run school, where she befriends Grunge, a lovable goofball voiced by the Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist, Flea.
Unless you want everyone in Division to think you're chicken.
And Roxy Spaulding, who's a bit feisty but well-meaning, voiced by E.G. Daily. They are mainly trained by one of my favorite characters from the film, Helga, who's just a ton of fun.
No. Hold still.
As the students continue training, Project Leader Threshold, who's brilliantly voiced by Mark Hamill, takes a keen interest in Caitlin. As the trio's gen factor begins to manifest, they are forcefully taken while asleep to be experimented with, fully unleashing their abilities. The process is quite similar to how Deadpool got his powers through Ajax's torture, allowing his mutant gene to manifest during a high-intense situation.
You actually have something in your teeth now.
Shut your fucking mouth! No problem, John. Shut the fuck up, you cunt!
While all this is taking place, the facility is visited by Colonel Jack Lynch, a friend of Caitlin's father, who wishes to take down the entire Gen 13 program and expose it to the rest of the government. While sneaking off in the middle of the night, Caitlin accidentally stumbles into a room with files on her father.
This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer.
Where she finds out her father was experimented on too. Grunge and Roxy find her as well, but they're then caught by a security team who beat them, leading to an all-out battle as Caitlin's powers fully take hold. She then grows bigger, causing her shirt to rip, which of course allows the film to show a bit of nudity.
What is this? Are you alright?
She looks alright to me.
They then hide into a ventilation shaft, and we get a rather interesting amount of levity.
I think I got a ripworm.
The entire facility goes on full lockdown as Threshold and the entire team attempt to stop the three friends from escaping. Roxy and Grunge are captured, further experimented on, which finally manifests Grunge's gen factor. Grunge gains the ability to mimic the molecular structure of anything he touches, much like the ill-fated Darwin from X-Men First Class.
Each of us will face a choice. Be enslaved.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I adapt to survive.
Are you serious right now, bro?
Grunge turns into metal, able to overpower Threshold, and promptly rescues Roxy. An all-out battle ensues with Lynch's military personnel arriving to save the day. As Roxy, Caitlin, and Grunge are rescued by a friendly chopper, Threshold ambushes them, delivering a Joker-esque snicker. Before killing the pilot in one of the most brutal ways I've seen. And it absolutely destroys the helicopter. As the trios are in freefall, Roxy's powers finally take shape, allowing her to stop them and herself midair as she's able to control gravity. And funny enough, her name is Freefall in the comics. Threshold then gives them the classic "join me and we can rule the world" line, which is pretty ironic coming from Luke Skywalker, but then again, Mark Hamill is so versatile. But the three friends don't take it seriously at all, and they laugh it over. Despite this, Threshold's goal is understandable, as he wants to overthrow the government that killed his father, creating his own group of superhumans to aid him in his coup. While he seeks vengeance, he wishes to do it in the wrong way. The four have a huge, big superhero fight, which is brilliantly animated, before Lynch finally arrives to reveal the big, shocking twist. Threshold is a victim working with the very people that killed his family, and it's here where we get the "I am your father" kind of turning point. Lynch discloses that Caitlin is his sister, and the opening of the film was actually the two of them. Their mom went to Matthew's father, her ex-husband, Steven, for help in getting the kids away from harm, but of course we know what happened. Rather than going along with Caitlin and Lynch, Threshold chooses to stay behind, sacrificing himself to ensure his sister's safe escape, dying in a most poetic way. While Caitlin may have lost the only family she knows, at least she found a family in Roxy and Grunge. Gen 13 overall is such a fun movie, and a real hidden gem. The film had its official premiere July 17, 1998 at Wizard World Chicago, the comic convention. But now the real question is, why on earth did Disney shelve a fully completed movie? It's quite stupid, honestly. Disney executives ultimately felt it would be a bad mistake to distribute a movie based on a property from a rival company, which in this case is Warner Brothers, as they are DC's parent company. There were also concerns over the film's violence and mature themes due to Disney's target child audience. Even though they retained the rights to the movie, Disney chose to instead shelve it completely rather than even attempting a theatrical or straight-to-DVD release, permanently locking it in the vault. Now, if it was locked away by Disney, how on God's green earth do I have a copy then? Well, fascinatingly, the film was released only on VHS in Australia by Paramount, who owned the home media rights in that region. It was also aired on TV in Russia in 2002. Despite this, it has never been given an official release in North America. Only rips of the VHS exist on YouTube, and while Disney retains the rights for it, they weirdly have never taken it down. Gen 13 really is a wild card, and a perfect example of lost media that deserves an official release. Any film that is completed should never be shelved by a studio. It deserves to see the light of day. Weirdly, we've been seeing this happen a lot more, as studios have justified locking away movies as tax write-offs, most notably Batgirl and Coyote vs. Acme, both Warner Brothers productions. Since Disney is now well known for owning Marvel, Gen 13 exists as a weird instance where the company had a DC property. Curiously, they also own the rights to the Batman 66 movie, as it was previously under 20th Century Fox, which Disney has since acquired. So who knows, maybe Batman 66 will eventually see the light of day on Disney+, and maybe even Gen 13 one day too.